Hello. Hope all is fantastic. Let's start the new year with joy. Today we're going to talk about some extreme sports that you can do, and quite fascinating things that may be quite fun for your list of next year to do. If you're not familiar with volcano surfing and think it has something to do with surfing on a lava flow, you're not too far off. Granted, the lava you'll be surfing on the outside of Leon, Nicaragua, has cooled considerably since it first erupted from the mountain. That said, it has an active volcano as it is relatively new, having formed a little more than 160 years ago. The cone of the volcano is comprised of small grains of volcano rock, and is sometimes figured out that it wasn't only possible to surf upon, all the way down. Oh, the fun that you would have during this time frame. And somebody figured out that it wasn't only possible to surf down, it's so much fun to do so as well. This is one of those adventures that's not only dangerous, though it isn't without a risk. To partake of the volcano thrills, you need to strap a wooden board to your back and hike 2,338 feet up the Black Rocky Mountain. It takes only about 45 minutes, but once up to the top, you get to surf down. Oh, quite fun. Depending on your level of skill, you can either sit or stand on top of the board and head down the mountain. You have to wear a one-piece suit for crash protection. Volcano rock is incredibly sharp as well, and falling could mean shredding your skin, so make sure you have a band-aid. Every year, the city of Panama, Spain, features the highly publicized running of the bulls as part of the San Fernan Festival, which is held annually from July 6th to the 14th. A run conducted 1st to 7th and continues each day of the festival at 8 a.m. The running of the bulls has been broadcasted live more than 30 years now, and resulted in all manners of tourism and locally coming to the city to participate in the event. To do so, you have to be at least 18 years old, run in the direction of the bulls, of course, not antagonize the animals, and not under the influence of alcohol or any drugs as that manner. Participation does not mean much to run with the bulls. They run for themselves, and it's fairly dangerous, of course, because they have horns. There are 6 bulls used in each run, and 2 oxen groups, which amounts to several dozens freaked out animals running like crazy at speeds amongst of 15 miles an hour. So hopefully you have your cardio going. There are often injuries and also people killed. 15 deaths have been recorded since record keeping since 1910. Participants are more likely to be injured by bumping into one another as well, or if it occurs, pile-ups. Oh, quite fun, which can result in high numbers of trampling as well. Another instance of fun things that you can do for the new year, wing walking is pretty much what it sounds like. And is not only dangerous, it also is difficult. To wing walk, you need to do a couple of things. First, you'll need to do some training. And secondly, you need a plane. You can't need an airplane that is made of paper, of course. You'll need a plane suitable for endeavors that will be doing flips and so forth, something that will maneuver quite successfully. A jet isn't going to work due to their speeds, so you'll want to find an older model of an airplane, something that is fashionable prop plane that will work the best. Wing walkers typically use biplanes for their aerial aerobatics, which is what performers first used a century ago for daredevil shows. Wing walking is often more than merely strapping one's feet to the wing of an airplane. Many performers have demonstrated an ability to hang on during various aerial maneuvers. Some have even crossed from one plane to another, though it's not without risk. In 2018, Canadian rapper John James McCurry died during a wing walk, which he was doing for a music video. Typically, wing walking is left to professionals. Still, on average, person can give it a shot. They'll just need to attend some training at places like the Mason Wing Walking Academy in Washington, which I'm sure Tom Cruise attended, of course. If you've seen Jaws, you probably have a fear of sharks. I do as well. Whenever I get into a pool, it's quite scary. And while it's rational to give up for this feeling, these large fish in the space, the truth, the great white shark, is that they don't like eating people. Unfortunately, they like to taste or bite things as well that they don't recognize, which could be incredibly dangerous for divers. Despite this, people cage diving among sharks all during this time frame, and because they have the protection of the cage, it is far less dangerous than it looks. That's fine for most people, but believe it or not, some divers prefer to chuck the cage itself and dive right on in with the sharks. Even though it is quite dangerous to do this, all amongst other things, Mexico rarely grants permits for people to swim its waters without a cage. Still, specialized sharks divers permits are granted. So if you can meet the nation's stingiest requirements, you can share the water with a great white shark. Tasty if you like tuna. Or sushi. Because these are far more interesting things for the sharks to eat other than divers, the risk is far less than most people think. Still, it is a big risk, and shouldn't be attempted without knowing what you're getting yourself into. And at the end of the day, it's always best to use a cage, or to not go into the water at all. Just go to a sushi restaurant and pretend you're with a shark. The English Channel is between 150 miles and 21 miles wide. And like any stretch of dangerous water, it is one people have been crossing in various ways for centuries. The waters are often frigid, and the channel is one of the world's busiest shipping lanes of all times, which makes kayaking across it dangerous, of course. It's not the same as kayaking a dangerous river filled with rapids because it is an open water source. It's best to charter to support craft and guides to ensure you get to where you are going safely, of course. Making a crossing can take around 6 hours, so it's not for the faint of heart. Still, it is possible to go on this particular adventure without being an expert kayaker. Training on the small craft for only a few months may be enough to ensure you get from UK to the European mainland in one piece. Considered the most dangerous ice climb on the planet. I'm sorry if I butcher this. Hamlock Falls is a gorgeous waterfall that sits along the Myrtle River within Wells Grey Privilege Park in British Columbia, Canada. The falls measures 463 feet, making them the fourth highest in Canada. It is a beautiful sight to say the least. During the summer months, but once it gets cold, the whole thing freezes into a jagged, privilege thing of icicles. It is possible to climb the falls through. It shouldn't be attempted by anyone who isn't an expert climber. When the falls freeze, they create an ice cone extended as high as 50 meters, so climbing it requires going up the cave. The falls extended over its frame, and it's incredibly steep as well. The most dangerous climb is called a Wolverine, not with X-Men of course, and has been rated a WI-11, which is the highest rating on the WI numeric scale. Wolverine is the only known climb to feature this rating, which involves steep climbing through aerated spray ice. It sounds like a new adventure for 2024, which is quite extravagant and quite fun. So hopefully you have a diaper to go on this tale. The designation was given by Clement Permel and Tim Emmett, which, after becoming the first to accomplish this feat in February 2012, out of all the times of 2012, that's quite a feat of its own. It is quite amazing. When a person goes rock climbing, they have a ton of gear, and depending on their level of expertise, that gear would mean the difference between life and death. Oh, the fun times that we had. For those climbers far more experienced than most, another option called free solo climbing is another option that you could go upon if you want to stare death in the face. Free climbing means climbing all on your own, without any rope, harness, or protective gear. Essentially, it's about the closest thing a person can get to becoming Spider-Man itself, or Spider-Woman. And there is an interpretation of doing it regularly. The most dangerous rock climb in this manner is El Capitan. Found in Yosemite National Park, the granite cliff is nearly 3,000 feet high. That's more than a one-story building. And it is almost entirely vertical. If that sounds impossible, it's been actually done by one person before. In 2017, Alex Honnold managed to climb without any rope or safety gear. He began climbing at 5:32 a.m. and made it on the top just under 4 hours later. While it is certainly possible to attempt such feat, it isn't recommended unless you're at the level of this person. So good luck. Diving is a relatively safe activity, so as long as you have the proper training. When it comes to cave diving, of course it is entirely different. It is one of the most dangerous feats you can do. While diving any cave, it is potentially deadly, the most hazardous thing that you can do. The Blue Hole, which is found north of Egypt, is in the Red Sea. There are many so-called blue holes around the world, but only one people call the Blue Hole itself. It is a submarine sinkhole that is about 328 feet deep, with a shallow opening to the sea, known as the Saddle. It has a 85-foot tunnel called the Arch, and the area has an abundance of coral and fish. Oh, fun. The Blue Hole attracts free divers and cave divers from all over around the world, but it is also widely known to be the deadliest dive spot anywhere on Earth. Estimated of fatalities have reached over 200 people. People have found the bodies of divers in the Blue Hole depths, and there are also memorial stones scattered about the monks marking of their passing. The Blue Hole is navigational, and plenty of people survive diving it. Still, experienced divers have scrambled to its depths to enter with caution. Another factor is the adventures requiring an excess amount of training to do so. Seeing as it starts with climbing Mount Everest, the feat seems impossible. It is actually amongst the hardest things to do. Valery Rolfzach was a famous Russian base jumper, and his biggest claim to fame, of course of many, was a successful base jump from the northern peak of Mount Everest. Designed specifically for Red Bull, his wingsuit, he managed to jump from a height of 23,690 feet, which was a record at the time. He glided down to the glacier more than 1,000 meters below, reaching speeds up to 125 miles an hour on this trip. It is possible to do so, what he did. Still, it requires several things. You'll need to use a similar wingsuit. You'll need to train and hike the summit of Mount Everest. And also it depends on where you do it. You may need a permission from the Chinese government so you don't violate the airspace since it is near that area. One of the most dangerous expeditions a person could ever undertake is a crossing of Antarctica. And the frozen continent has been long a goal of many explorers around the world. And it wasn't until 1911 that an expedition made to the South Pole crossing the continent with a team has been done to death, literally on many occasions. But doing it solo wasn't accomplished until 2018. Colin O'Brady and Lewis Rood started on the same day but took slightly different routes and managed to cross the continent unsupported. I don't know if they rock, paper, scissors it or not. And while unassisted, dragged 300-pound sled behind them. To do so, this made it to make it across without resupplies or supply drops, and they had to make the trek entirely on their own. Their expeditions began at the end of the Rowan ice shelf on November 3rd. Both men passed through the South Pole Research Station. They did not find Santa Claus because he's in the North Pole, to complete their trek on the 26th and 28th of December. Antarctica is open and willing for any person who wants to make this journey, so it is possible to do this crossing. Just make sure you do the proper training as well and bring plenty of water and sled dogs for hugging and love. Anyway, what adventure would you like to do? I would love to do the volcano sled crossing or volcano sledding and so forth. Anyway, I hope all is going fantastic, and thank you for enjoying this video. Have a great one. Bye.